Sally.
Hello everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
Hi. Hi there.
Nice to see some smiling faces, some people that I know. It's great. So we're not quite sure how many people we're going to get join us, because we've had something like over 80 people sign up, which is like astonishing, and we're both of us a little bit kind of okay, wow. We're not sure we expected that, which is fantastic. And we also know that often people kind of, you know, don't always catch it or decide, oh, actually life takes over and they're busy. So I thought Sally and I were just chatting about kind of what we're going to do in terms of people joining us, and we thought we'd give it a minute or two and we'll chat amongst ourselves, really introduce ourselves, because I think some of you will know both of us, but some of you might only know one of us. So we'll do a little bit of that, and then we'll kind of kick off, really, if that sounds, that's kind of what we talked about, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Sally Ann, yeah,
perfect.
Yeah. Meanwhile, at the moment, I am seeing if there's anybody else waiting, but I don't think so. So we've got about 20 people so far. Oh, there we go. Okay. Do you want to start introducing yourself, Sally Ann, while I just kind of keep doing the clicking thing whilst people are still joining us at the moment? Yeah.
Hello everybody, thank you for joining Lynn and I today. I see many faces that I know and names that I recognise, so thank you so much for coming. So I'm Sally Ann. I'm an abstract artist. This is my work in the background here. I'm based on the southeast coast of the UK, in a place called Southend-on-Sea. I've been I've been painting, and I guess, you know, the whole story about being creative my whole life, but I think I could say that I really dedicated myself to my practice about 4 years ago. And I just decided on painting, and that was it. And so I'm sort of slowly seeing my progression, and I'm glad I just focused on that because I was dotting about a bit before. And I left my job. I was working full-time, and I left my job back in November to do this full-time. So it's all a little bit scary at the moment, but I'm having lots of fun and exploring loads of new things, and this and connecting more with people. Obviously it'd be lovely in person, but we don't have that luxury, and this way we can chat with everybody all over the world. So yeah, thank you all for coming, and yeah, delighted to see you.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'll echo that. So I'm Lynn Cheung. I'll just admit this one last person, and then I'll let you do that while I'm chatting to people. Yeah, so I'm Lynn Cheung. I'm also abstract artist. I live in Buxton. I don't know if anybody knows where that is, who's outside of the UK. People who are in the UK may not necessarily know, but it's a small market town in the Peak District, probably about an hour or so south of Manchester, something like that. It's an area of really beautiful countryside, actually, and I've lived here now for probably about 4 years, something like that. So this is where my studio is. My studio's in my home. It's on the top floor, and you can probably see, if I move out the dodge out of the way, some of the work there behind me. Some of the things that I'm currently working on. So yeah, I mean, I think this whole idea really of doing these kind of live art chats once a month came out of I suppose Sally Ann and I talking quite a lot when I did a couple of open studios this last year, kind of when we were in lockdown, and thinking about ways in which to kind of connect with people and, you know, still kind of have contact with people who are interested in art and artists who are, you know, kind of wanting to find out about the work and are interested in, you know, kind of what we're doing. And one of the things that I found when Sally Ann joined those couple of open studios is that she and I were kind of talking quite a lot. And I said to her after, I thought, actually, maybe we could do something like that, you know, where one of us is demonstrating and the other person is kind of chatting to them and asking questions. you know, and people can kind of sit in and watch, and they can join in with their own questions as well. But it felt like it worked quite well, so we thought we'd give it a go, didn't we? You know, it felt like it might be something that people might really enjoy. You know, it's a window into you know, the making of work. It's a window into a kind of an artist studio and what we're up to. Yeah, so kind of that was the idea behind it. And you know, what we're going to do with these is both of us were kind of recording them. I'm going to put them on our YouTube channels so that if people miss them first time round, then they can, you know, re-listen, or in fact, you may even want to watch it again. So so that's it really. I mean, I think, you know, what we've in terms of the format for this afternoon, if you want to have your video on, that's great. If you don't want to have it on, that's also fine. We would ask people that if they would mute themselves whilst we are kind of doing the demonstrations and stuff like that, because sometimes the microphones will pick up the extra sound and it can cause quite a lot of feedback. So, you know, if you want to speak, then you know, just unmute yourself basically and shout in with a question, or use the chat function as well. I don't know if everybody knows how to use the chat function. If you're not sure, if you hover over the bottom of the screen, you'll see that there's like a little icon with like a speech button. If you click on that, that brings up the chat, and then you can pop questions in the chat as well. Anything else to say about any of that, Sally? Have I missed anything?
No, not really. And just to echo what you said really about why we're doing this, I've found definitely in the last 4 or so years since I've been taking my practice more seriously, I've been really grateful for other artists sort of openly sharing what they do and like their processes, and you just pick up different things, and it's nice. You know, I think sometimes when we're alone in our studios, it can be a bit like, oh God, am I doing this right? Or, you know, and we think we get everything wrong all the time. And I think I've just been really like learned so much and grown so much just by listening to other artists and joining in on things when I can. So I guess I want to be like that in my own practice and be able to share, just because it makes you feel part of a bigger thing and that you're not completely alone and going bonkers in your own studio half the time.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, me too, actually. Yeah, I think there's something about feeling that connection. I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed is being the fact that yeah, particularly since I've been doing some things on, I'll just grab that one, doing some things online. What I've noticed is the opportunity to connect with people around the world, actually. So I've just had a message, somebody who's saying that she's in Tanzania and East Africa. You know, it's like, wow, that's just so exciting. Wow. You know, that we literally are an international community really of artists, and I just find that so, yeah, just really kind of find that great, you know, that here we are connecting all around the world, you know. And I've seen 1 or 2 faces that I know, you know, people that I know are, you know, from the US and so on. So that's, you know, feels cool, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I think we said we'd kick off, didn't we, with a you know, a kind of short, like what I've been up to this week, and then I'll kick off with a demonstration. Actually, yeah.
Yeah. Should I go?
Yeah. Do you want to go first? Yeah, you go first. What have you been working on?
So I've been trying to bring together my larger work. So it's something I wanted to focus on this year. So I've just been working on this that I've uploaded onto my website. It's called Sage. And I'm really pleased with it. Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. So I'm going through at the moment just trying to photograph them and get them on the website, which is always the bit that's not so quite exciting. But yeah, so, and I'm just going through a sort of predicament on whether to get an outside studio. So I'm trying to weigh up, I've been doing a lot of thinking this week as I've been painting, whether to take that next step or not. So I'm in a bit of a decision-making phase.
Yeah, it feels like it's an exciting thing to be doing. I know you talked to me about it earlier in the week, and I was like, wow, that just, you know, and having seen some of the photographs of it, it looks really exciting. Yeah. And also, you know, definitely I can get that feeling of, oh, am I ready to take this step yet, I guess. And yeah, but there's also something, isn't there, about, you know, that actually sometimes pushing ourselves, taking the risk can be the thing that really can result in everything we were looking for. So it's a bit like when you do it in your art, isn't it, actually?
Yes.
You know, taking the risk in your art can be really
absolutely. It's that thing about feeling, when it's in fact that middle one, I don't know if you can see it. Almost completed, and you know, it's that thing of when is it finished, and I just thought it needed a something, but I've got basically a finished painting there, And I was just like, I've just got to do it, I've just got to do it. So I got my pencils, closed my eyes and just sort of blind drew over it. And I was thinking, I have no clue what this is going to look like. But after I came back, I was like, oh, I'm so glad I did that, because it just gave it a new aliveness. But the risk that it felt, I mean, it's only drawing over your painting. It's not the end of the world. But when you think I've got a finished painting here and I'm just about to risk messing it all up. But
yeah, absolutely. I know that feeling. So I mean, in terms of what I'm doing, I've been working on, let's not trip over all the wires. I've been working on these. So I'm working on, at the moment, those of you who kind of know a bit about my work will know that I put out a series of work called Edges, which is all about kind of how things meet, and also, you know, kind of transitions between shapes and forms on paintings, and also the idea of really composition being predominantly around the edge. And it feels like I'm still exploring that idea, but at the moment what I'm doing it is with a whole load of little blocks, you know, small 6x6 paintings, and it feels like these are giving me lots of scope actually to kind of explore this whole idea. So on some of them I am actually, you know, taking the painting around the edge, which feels like feels like in a way it's a bit of a play on words as well, which I like to do that.
Nice,
So I'm not sure how many I'm going to do. At the moment I've got 20.
Okay.
I feel like I still do more, you know, so I'm going to keep going with them really and see how far I get. So they've been really good fun actually, and in many respects I think, you know, that is the thing, this central idea that I'm still exploring in my work, which is this idea of there's a kind of a particular palette and a particular kind of composition idea, and within that, and I kind of new things keep dropping in, but it still feels like the central idea is still holding.
Okay.
I've already been really interesting. So I mean, I'll start sharing screen actually, because I'm about to switch to moving over to the demonstration space, so I'll do that now. So everybody should be able to see this as a full screen. There we go. Okay, good. So that's not too bad, is it? I don't think. So what we've got here, not to trip over anything, is there's two 16x16 wooden panels, and I prepped these earlier on. And what I've done with them, I'll bring them in a bit closer. I'm not sure how clearly you'll be able to see it on the webcam. But what I've done here is I've basically covered them with some calico, if you can see. So this is it's a fine-grained cotton. And what I've done with them, I've used them almost like kind of collage really, to so not taking it quite up to the edge, and leaving in some of the stray bits of cotton to form part of the surface texture. So I'm interested in how that's going to turn out. Feels like it's that'll be quite good fun actually. And then this one's the same. It's covered in the calico. But I've not done any of this kind of stuff with the edges and stuff like that. I'm just going to leave that as a plain board. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a start. I'm going to make a start with some painting. This would be, I guess, one of the things I do start with is a kind of underpainting in a way, which is a laying down of colour and marks and kind of expressive free painting really, to see kind of what comes from that. So I'll kind of just get on with that for now. So anybody wants to ask any questions, fire away really, while I'm just kind of getting some paint mixed.
I've got a couple of questions.
Go on then.
So I'm assuming you're putting the canvas ground down to give you some different textures on the boards.
Yes, yeah.
And do you gesso over them then?
Yes, yeah, that's what I've done. So actually, I've kind of, the calico is stuck to the board with the gesso.
Oh right, okay.
So I put a coat of I put a coat of gesso on the board, and then I stick the fabric to it, and then paint over the fabric, so it kind of absorbs into the grain of the cotton, and then that makes it adhere to the wood. I'm going to mix up a couple of...
Do you always alter your surface first?
No, not always. Having said that though, one of the things I'm noticing, particularly with painting on wood, is that the paint, because I like quite a lot of history in the work, that if I don't alter the surface and put either some paper or some fabric or something on it, it takes ages to build up any depth, and I end up, it sort of really soaks up the paint.
Yeah.
And that can be quite frustrating, really, because I feel like I'm often working and working and working and getting nowhere, actually, before it starts to kind of develop. So I've noticed that by, creating some texture first, it actually seems to move the work along a lot quicker, actually.
Okay. And have you tried different textures, like, to play with?
What have I tried so far? So different thicknesses and types of paper, and then the calico, really, are the two main things that I've been doing. I'm trying to think if I've done anything else. No, that's it.
Well, that's a nice variation, because the calico's obviously got that weave, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Really smooth, so you've already got quite a lot going on.
Yes, that's what it feels like. Definitely feels like it. So, for example, on one of the small ones, I did like I have done on this one, I did a patch of fabric and then I did a patch of paper, which was quite interesting, and then with bits of wood showing through.
Okay.
So we'll see how successful it proves to be. So what I'm doing now is just preparing all the likely paint that I might want to use, so that I can just move from brush to brush without having to slow down.
Okay, so do you pre-mix your paint then on your palette before you
yeah, not always, but when I'm working on a fairly big painting, then I do, because it otherwise I find that I'm kind of stopping and starting quite a bit.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Right, so let's just get some colour on this.
Does anybody else work on like a prepped surface? Is that part of anybody's practice? Like, if you're trying to alter the surface before you actually start the painting, does that come up for anybody? Feel free to unmute yourselves.
We can just talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started recently with I have 4, and I started layering paper, like black paper, black newsprint, and then gloss medium, and then another layer of paint, and then another layer of gloss medium, and then a layer of collage. And like when you let that dry, then you sand into it.
Okay.
So starting with distress. That's interesting what she's saying, though, to build up the layers of and get a history. If you start with the distress, you already kind of have that richness.
Yeah, you've got something to respond to straight away, haven't you?
But I never thought about it until I was listening to her talk about that, like what I was doing. I just thought I was, being strange but that's a Michael Shemchek process.
Okay. I do that, what Lynn's talking about, because I don't particularly, there's some canvases I just don't like the texture of as much, and I realised exactly what Lynn was saying. I was painting, and I'd probably done, I don't know how many layers, but I still felt that my paint was really thin and I could still feel all the texture of the canvas. So it's the same for me, or I recently I tried with different things like different molding pastes and things, just to give myself like that thickness, the layer. But then I tried some canvases that were like a linen, they were a finer weave, and I actually really liked that. So I think it just depends on the actual texture. I'm just going to read in the chat here. How do you attach the cotton? So Debbie, how do you attach cotton? Gel medium or something else? Okay, so I think Lynn had said she just uses the gesso. So she puts the gesso on the board, uses it as the glue, and then gesso's on top of the calico as well.
Yeah, basically, yeah, because what happens, Sally Ann, is it's the fabric gets completely impregnated with the gesso. So as the gesso dries, it just seals it completely flat to the board. And then what I do is tuck it around the edges and stick it down with some PVA glue or something like that, where where it has gone around the edge.
Okay, yeah. Debbie said sometimes I use Venetian plaster for texture. Oh, nice. So yeah, a bit like me with the moulding paste, anything to sort of raise the surface, I guess. And Sandra, I've used vintage fabrics to build in some pattern and texture. Oh, nice. Yeah.
That sounds like a nice idea.
Yeah. Really nice. Yeah, feel free to type in the chat. I can pick them up here. So the palette you're using, Lynn, is that one that you've carried forward because that's changed slightly from your last paintings? I know this is just your underpainting, but
yeah,
are you changing a little bit, or?
I'm still using the same basic colours in the palette. So, there's a cadmium orange, there's cerulean, there's yellow ochre, cad red deep, kind of cadmium yellow, a leaf green and a hooker's green, white and black. What I'm doing is alternating between different variations of those, really. So if we actually, when we've finished, I'll spin the camera around and show these small ones on the wall, because they show a good eye, because they're all done with the same palette.
Oh, okay.
But there's a massive variation, in the different kind of shades and tones that I'm doing. So I'm finding that quite interesting, really. It's essentially using the same range of colours, but then mixing them differently to kind of make them more interesting. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm going with that colour there. I'm just adding some more white to it, and then I'm going to add some of the actual cadmium orange to it to bring it into a slightly different shade. Probably add try a bit of black in it. See what that does.
The dark on there, is that black? One on the right looks like an inky blue. It looks really lovely, is it? Or is it?
Yeah, it's cerulean, black, and cadmium orange.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it makes a really nice sort of smoky, sort of dark bluey grey.
Yeah.
So this is a slightly lighter and more orangey version of this. And then this is one of the things I do a lot of in my work, which is to take, basically what I'll do is take the mix into the colour that's I'm going to paint over, and add in slightly different colours and shades to it. So I've basically taken that paint as like a base and added more stuff into it, and then I'll paint over the colour that's on the painting. And what you then get is a really interesting build-up of colour, which is one of the ways I create a lot of texture, because that's now, it's got that underneath, but it's got a slightly lighter shade over the top, but that lighter shade is made of that darker colour plus some other stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So the people who are kind of interested in, that kind of how to use colour and build it up. Got to say, this painting on calico is a revelation. I've had this stuff and had it in the wall, in my cupboards for, I don't know, the best part of, since before we moved here. That's at least 4 years, and I've been intending to do something with it. I only just got around to it. And it's just, it makes such a difference actually to the surface. It's a really lovely surface to paint on.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it. It's great actually.
So Natalie, is calico a fabric or a canvas? I used to use calico to make my rough patterns of dresses. It's like a thin, what is it? It's a cotton.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because it's not too textured, is it?
No. but it kind of holds paint really well, I think. That you can see already on this board here. Now, so I've already got some really interesting textures starting to form.
Yeah.
And this is a first pass, whereas if I was painting straight onto a wooden panel, that wouldn't be happening yet.
So can you just point out where the calico is?
The whole thing is covered in calico.
Oh, right, okay.
All one is covered in calico, yeah, all of it is.
So where that orange is at the top, we can see like some edges in there. Is that the paint or is that another layer of something?
No, it's the paint.
Right.
So how I did that was I used the roller.
Okay.
So I used a roller with quite thick paint on it. I'll show you actually somewhere else. So there's some on here. So I'll do that and then I do that with the edge. So I'm using
oh right, yes,
the edge of the wheel, and it creates some really interesting,
yeah, like ridges almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Natalie said, I've been experimenting on small canvases as tests, golden fine pumice gel. Oh, I don't know that. Or using collage paste as a first coat, or golden absorbent ground, toilet paper and gel medium. Well, anything that's going to give texture.
Lovely.
Love it.
Yeah.
It's so hard not to start liking and falling in love too soon, isn't it? I'm already loving that top right corner where it's black. Yeah.
Try a different tool. So, part of what I'm doing for the benefit of people who are watching really is, using quite a wide range of some of the, excuse me, quite a wide range of some of the tools that I would use. So this is something I use a lot. It's basically, it's a cheap alternative to the catalyst wedge.
All right.
Yeah, because I mean the catalyst wedges are about £5-6 each, aren't they? Something like that, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Whereas I think this is like £2 from B&Q.
Noted.
It's a tile grouter.
Oh right, okay.
Okay, so it's got like a rubber edge to it on one side, and then it's got a like a set of teeth on the other, which you can use to create some quite interesting
oh yeah, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other thing about these is I use them quite a bit to actually paint with. So I will, scrape the paint up like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will, use the tool just to apply the paint. You get some really interesting.
I think
for me at this stage, it's all about messing around with the paint, and creating some interesting kind of textures and effects and things that just feel, fun and interesting that I'm going to want to build on further.
So at the moment, you're not thinking anything about your composition. You're just in play mode.
Yeah, I'm putting some paint down and playing around with some colours and seeing what interests me. So, one of the things that I've already noticed that I like in this is the way in which the blue is sitting over the orange in this area here. So that's something that I might not keep it there, but that's something that might appear in this painting somewhere. So there's a thing there that I like. That's a thing. The other thing is, where was it gone? Actually, how this blue looks against this sort of, I don't know what colour you call it, kind of washed out ochre colour, this neutral that I've got here. I mean, I use that quite a lot, but I particularly like this shade that I've mixed and this shade, so that feels like it's nice. Yeah. And I might want to keep hold of that. Not necessarily there, but it's somewhere in the painting. Yeah.
I really like that blue. I like it on the left one next to the darker colour as well.
Yes, yeah, those two. Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, from what I've got so far, there are two things that are kind of washing around really in the mix. But in terms of anything else, you know, who knows where it might end up. So what I might do actually is just swap these over because it's a little bit easier working over here. Do that now.
If anybody has any questions, honestly, feel free to come off of mute. This is a great opportunity to share your thoughts or ask any questions.
As always, there's no such thing as a daft question.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about composition at all? Composition?
Not, that sounds like Carrie. Is that Carrie?
Yes.
That's your voice. Hello. Yeah, not really. I mean, not in any kind of specific way. I mean, the one thing I am aware of in terms of composition is the fact that, you know, these two paintings are part of this bigger series that I've been working on. So at some point, you know, my focus is going to shift to the fact that I want some kind of larger, lighter space through the centre, and that I want most of the forms in the interest and the darker shapes, or the forms in some form or another, to be around the edges, and that actually, you know, for it to fit, for it to be within this series, I'm going to probably be drawing on you know, some of the motifs and forms and shapes in some of the smaller paintings that I've got over there, to incorporate into here. So that might mean, actually my hands off too, I'm going to get wet paint on one of these. So one of the shapes and forms that is appearing quite a lot in these small paintings is this kind of curve. Okay. So chances are I might want to introduce that somewhere at some point.
How about values? Are you considering that?
No, not at all at this stage. No, I'm quite literally just playing with paint, really. You know, with no real intention at all at this stage. You know, it's just let's get some paint down and see what it looks like. See what we've got.
I think that's I mean, it's definitely the way I work, and the more and more I paint, I just realise, you know, finding my own processes of literally like getting this paint down, getting as much going as I can before I start thinking about the design. Or Carrie just said about because it's like, when do you start bringing your values in and stuff, and because that's what's the strongest element of your painting, to put, you know, to get your darks in. But if I start them too soon, I feel like I've not got enough built up. I've not got enough history going on.
I think, I don't know if you feel this as well, Sally, but I think what that also does for me is it ties me into something too early.
Yeah.
So that then I stop exploring, really. I stop playing. You know, I start trying to think and complete probably before I'm ready to.
Yeah, it's taken me a really long time to understand that. You know, I really have to remind myself as I'm like every painting, just about like keep going. Even when I think, oh, I should start thinking about this now, it's like, no, keep going a bit longer.
Yeah. One thing I can say that I'm noticing in this one is I'm noticing how much I'm enjoying and liking these variations, these subtle variations in this very pale sort of aqua kind of neutrally colour, and how much I'm liking how just the texture that's already starting to build up, really, around that. And I'm thinking, that's something that I definitely want to see if I can do more of, actually, in this.
Yeah.
The central light shape will probably be this kind of colour, actually. You know, and it can be all sorts. I mean, because, you know, some of the paintings I've got are very grey, some of them are quite yellow, some of them are blue, but this one I think is going to go for this kind of, this colour that's kind of emerging in this area here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Natalie, I don't know if you're still here. You'd said, so you talked about edges. Are you thinking about this right away, the concept when you start working, or are you waiting to bring it in? Is it always on your mind? Okay, so I don't know if Lynn just sort of answered that before, because you said you're not really, are you thinking of?
Not in a sort of specific compositional way. You know, I'm not. Let me just think about that. How much am I thinking about? It's a bit like it's a sort of loose framework that it feels like it's a sort of loose framework that I'm operating within. So there's some things that I know I'm not going to do. So for example, I know I'm not going to start putting big circles or patterns in this. That's not going to happen. You know, I'm not going to start doing a whole load of dots or anything like that, because that's not a motif that's appearing in those paintings. Yeah. So it's almost like I've got a framework of probably half a dozen ideas actually that keep appearing in these paintings, and they're the ones that I'm holding that I'll work with. So you know, using a roller and having the edge of it to create lines, that's a motif. Creating lines with the teeth of the tile grouter, that's another one. Using a fork to create lines, that's another one. So we might stick a few of those in somewhere.
It's funny, isn't it? Because even though you're not thinking about, let's say, your framework being sort of edges, you're not thinking about it as your overall composition, but actually each move you make, even when you were showing us the tile grouter, how you paint with that, you're really focusing in on those. It's still apparent in your mind that that's the sort of thing that really interests you, even at this stage. You know, it doesn't have to be about the overall composition.
No, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that I find quite useful actually about painting on this calico is that it absorbs the paint really nicely and dries quite quickly. So, you know, the problems that you sometimes get when something gets really wet and you can't move it forward, with this you can kind of keep moving it forward quite a bit actually. So so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go back to mixing up some more of this. Put the brush for that.
So Dee has asked, hi Lynn, your paint looks heavy and tacky. Is it acrylic, or have you added something to the paint, or is it the calico?
No, it's just acrylic. Not added anything to it, and I think it's probably how it behaves on the surface of the calico actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I do use it quite thick, probably about the consistency of double cream actually.
Okay, and do you add any mediums to thicken it, or
no, just a bit? No. But if anything, just a little bit of water to thin it down.
So you're using heavy body?
No, just basic student quality acrylics actually.
Okay, they're just naturally quite
thick, yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Lynn,
sure.
Because this week you've been working on your 6x6s, the small works.
Yeah.
And then you said about when you switch to large, do you, or even the ones you're working on at the moment, do you work on them at the same time? Like, can you easily switch from 16x16s to go back to 6x6, or do you work on all the same size?
No, I tend to work on all the same size in a session. Yeah. Mostly. I do find it's a bit of an interruption if I try not to do that. If I don't do that, you know, it takes me a little while to kind of find my I don't know what's the word I'd call for it, to kind of get into the process of painting small when I've been painting something this large.
Yeah. I think that comes up a lot for artists, doesn't it? Because it is such a different mindset.
Yeah, I think so. And also, I think you're using different tools as well, aren't you? And kind of your movements are different.
Yeah. Have you got a preference for working really large or small?
Not really, no. I think often it's just kind of, it's often about mood, you know, kind of what mood I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm in a sort of small mood, or I'm in a kind of big, you know,
expressive,
like, you know, that kind of mood. Weird time, it's 22, isn't it? So
yeah.
So at this point, I am starting to formulate some ideas now, actually. Only very loose ones, but
what's going through your mind?
I think what's going through my mind, just sort of experimenting, I think, with where might some of these shapes fall? You know, what the shape's going to be and where might they fall?
Mm-hmm.
I think. You know, so I think noticing what sort of happened almost by accident, you know, or in a kind of slightly unconscious way, in terms of what I've already, I love it when it does that, what I've already kind of laid down, but then wanting to sorry, I just need to pause for a minute. Talking and trying to paint at the same time is really difficult. What was I saying? Yeah, noticing what's already starting to happen, and building on that, or expanding on it, or taking it further. So there was, you know, there was a slight sort of ochre colour there, so I've added to it, made it slightly bigger. Don't know if I like it, probably don't actually. It works better if I move it around a bit. Oh, that feels a bit better actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then it's like, you know, what next with this? What next? Where next? It's got some paint left there. Let's just see what that does. Create some nice texture.
So when you said before, you've got kind of your framework in mind that you're working to, but on the little ones you've just been working on, there's a shape that has come in, yes, and you've allowed it in. Yeah. Whereas a moment ago you said when you're working on these, with keeping your framework in mind, you know that you're not going to all of a sudden do loads of crazy spirals or dots or something. But yeah, how did the other shape like manage to creep in then and you kept it?
I have no idea. Yeah, good question.
I guess it just, something happened and it felt right.
Yeah, and it felt right. I think that's probably what it is. It's kind of something happened and it felt right. And sometimes, so yeah, so I know that I might not be about to start doing. All right, if we put it this way, then sort of spirals and, you know, the things that you just named haven't emerged yet. I mean, I guess they might do at some point. At the moment, I'm kind of satisfied with what I'm currently exploring in terms of these shapes and these ideas. You know, something new might start to come out, might start to emerge, but at the moment, nothing else is. It feels like what I've got feels like it's enough.
Okay, so you're not fixed on your framework. It's a guide that you're using, and then if something comes up that interests you, you're like, okay, I'll allow this in and we'll explore a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I've got an example of that. Yes, I've got an example of that in these two here. So in fact, actually, I might just pause for a minute and just spin the camera around so you can see all of these while I talk to them. I'll just move the light. That's it. It's easier if I'm not dodging backwards and forwards. So there's quite a lot, as you can see, of these here. So I began with sort of these. So like this. So you can see here, there's that shape there, and these particular colours. And there's a fair, I'll say a fair amount. You know, there's a reasonable amount going on in that painting. And then we've also got ones like this. Again, using the calico here, on here, and you know, this form and this kind of shape.
Yeah.
So there's been quite a lot, and you can see the variation in colour. So this is what I was saying about you know, these paintings have all been done, and you can see most of them at this point. They've all been done with the same palette.
Okay.
Yeah, the same base colours, but you can see that there's a, you know, like this is all kind of green and red, but this one is yellow and blue, and then we've got, you know, quite a range of differences. So that's the other thing, I think, is that working with that kind of fairly solid range of colours means that I can take it in all sorts of different directions. So that's one thing I think that I'm using to bring interest. And then, you know, what's happened more recently is this, which is a kind of a simplification process. So, you know, going to compositions that are much, I mean, this isn't finished yet, so there's still some line work I'm going to do on that. But in terms of the, you know, the forms, I think I'm going to stick with that as it is. So that, you know, that one, that one, that one, and that one, those four that are on the end are much more, I think, much simpler in terms of their compositional structure than some of these over here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that's happened, you know, quite recently. I would say in the last, well, they're the last lot that I did, so that would probably be this last week or so.
Okay.
So that's an example, I think, of where, you know, something new starts to happen and just going with it.
Yeah. So if you favoured, let's just say you started going with those, I know you said they need some line work or whatever, but if you favoured those being more simple, would you then go back and change yours, or are you happy with the?
No, they'll stay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're, you know, the kind of ones at that end are done. I mean, they need some editing, a bit of, you know, kind of some final finishing and a few tweaks and stuff like that. But in essence, they are done. The bits that probably need doing most around the edges, making some decisions about which ones I'm going to go around the edge on and which ones I'm not.
Right.
But then, you know, this new set here, you know, I kind of got the main composition laid down, I think, for these.
Yeah.
You know, what needs to happen next is kind of the interest bit. So, you know, bringing in shapes like that and, you know, like that, and some of the work that you can see on some of here, you know, building up some more texture.
Yeah.
So.
I see.
Yeah.
Has anybody got any questions on any of that we just went through, or how you work, or
spin back round? Yeah, so with these now, you know, what I'm noticing is actually with this, I might want to take that back more, make that narrower,
yeah.
I think, which fits in with some of the ways in which I've been doing very narrow, dark shapes or bright colours along the edges of some of the smaller ones, and that feels more satisfying, actually. But what I might do is put...
It's crazy, isn't it, how you can just, I feel like we've just had a look at all those, and I was noticing how thin those edges look, and then when you come back here and straight away you're like, right, I want that to, you know, it's a feeling, isn't it, that
it is. Yeah.
And I like how they, you know, one can inform another and sort of carry on.
Yeah.
That was kind of my question. Are you using the small panels to inform the large panels, and do you work that
and
way?
backwards and forwards, really. Backwards and forwards. Yeah, so something might happen on one of these bigger ones that I'll think, oh, that's really a nice idea. How can I translate that into a small panel? What's that going to look like? Yeah. So one of the things I'm interested to see with these two, actually, will be, can I get the same level of simplicity as I've got with that you know, that four that I've just kind of done? Can I get that level of simplicity with these and make it work? Because I think that's much more harder to do on a bigger painting. Yeah, to really pare it down to its essence, really, in a way. But I feel you know, interested in the idea of doing that and what that might look like.
So Heloise said, is the edge concept something that has evolved from a previous series, maybe something you liked in a previous series, or did it start with the word and an abstract thought?
Actually, it came from, do you remember that demonstration? It came from the demonstration I was doing back in November at one of my own studios. I was working on 4 smallish paintings. In fact, you might even remember this, Sally Ann.
Yeah.
And what happened as I was working on them was that I got really interested in how the composition was just around the edge. Yeah. And it just came from there, and I just kind of completed those 4, and I thought, actually, I really like this and I want to take this further. And so I just kind of carried on making more, and it just felt like it got a life of its own. Yeah, and that's what, November last year, wasn't it? So yes, I've been kind of working in this particular area for a good 6 months or so, I guess, isn't it? Something like that.
And you found that really helpful to your practice, haven't you?
It's been really helpful, actually. It's been really helpful.
Since that conversation, it really did inspire me to when we spoke about that, because sometimes I have a fixed thing in mind, and people might resonate with this. It's like I might want to do a certain thing, but when I get to the canvas, it all just goes crazy. And then I'm like, how did I get here? And then it could be because I've not got that intention in mind. I mean, I know we work intuitively, but I think it's good to have a framework, because I was getting stuck on my paintings, and they could be like 20 different paintings in one, and it's like, well, when do you stop? You know, unless you know what you're looking for, I think it's hard to decide. You know.
Yeah. I think I'll stop sharing for now, so we can just carry on. Yeah, because we're probably getting close, aren't we, to the end? It's nearly 10 to. So yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think until I kind of cottoned onto this idea that this is actually a useful way to work, you know, every painting that I was beginning, like you said, was, you know, I was working and working and working, and just waiting to see what happened and waiting to see what emerged. You know, and sometimes the painting would go in all sorts of different directions. You know, it would be, you know, 5 or 6 different paintings before I finally settled on something. And actually that was quite frustrating. You know, it made it quite a difficult experience actually sometimes. Whereas what I've noticed with this is, you know, even though it doesn't feel like a limitation, what it actually does, it feels like it gives me more option for creativity. In a kind of, you know, quite a strange way, really. It just feels like it opens things up rather than closes them down.
Yeah, I totally get that, Lynn, and I feel exactly the same, A, about that, but B, about working with a limited palette for the same reason. If I've got loads of colours on my palette, I'm like, whoa, it could be anything. But if I've just limited myself, like the nuances that I can mix in all of those shades is like so vast. And then I'm like, wow, I feel free, like I can explore all of that. And it's the same, I think it's the same sort of mindset with the approach with the framework.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so it's been really interesting, actually. It's been really interesting and really helpful.
Yeah.
Shall I just let it's been?
Oh, I did it.
Yeah, dropping in and out, I think. Yeah, so how are we doing? Just nearly 5 to. So yeah, any last questions or thoughts from people? I'm wondering what it's been like as well, actually. What this experience has been like. So a few thumbs up. Thanks, Dee. Yeah, Lynn. Yeah, Sandra. Cool. Yeah. So I think I'm just trying to think. Is there anything you want to say? Anything else you want to say in the last 5 minutes or so?
No, just I hope everybody's enjoyed it and can take like something away. It's a lovely way to spend an hour with on a Friday.
Why not, eh? Yeah, why not?
That's been really good. Thank you very much.
Good. Yeah, I'm kind of looking at those, you know, paintings now and thinking, I think I might stay up here actually and work on this some more.
Yeah, everybody gets a little bit inspired and goes off.
And goes and does a bit more painting. Yeah.
I think everybody needs to find a theme though, don't they? Like your edges. Because I can see that definitely gives you a direction and and kind of helps really with your decision making at what you do at the end and
Yeah.
as you go through the process.
Yeah.
I agree, Carrie. I think it could really help how productive we are as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I think it can be anything actually. It could be something like, I'm going to explore, I don't know, let's just take something quite random. I'm going to explore all the many ways that I can use red in my paintings. That might be, a thing. Or I don't know. For lots of people kind of quite a few people like to do abstract landscape kind of work, don't they? So I think that's a very clear structure that you're working within, actually. Were you going to ask something then, Natalie? It looked like you got your hand up or something.
Oh, I wanted to know about this framework thing. Then how does risk come in?
How does what, sorry? Risk?
Yeah.
I think it comes in moment by moment, actually, with the mark making. So for example, like you were saying, Sally Ann, like you've got a painting that was sort of finished, could be finished, and then you felt like you wanted to activate it some more, so you went back in and made some drawing marks on it, with some of those pieces there, like these, well, for some people that might feel like it's almost finished. It doesn't for me. So one of the things I'm probably going to do with that is put some put some wax pastel on it. I'll probably draw in it and some pencil. I might add yet more paint to that, still within that framework. So each mark like that, I think, takes it a bit further away. So I think that's, for me, I think that's where risk comes in, and also not staying attached to anything, not staying attached to, like, if I do something and then, it clearly isn't working, then being willing to paint over it again, actually. Yeah. Just to completely shift it in a different direction. So I think did you see me do that over there? Yeah, there's some bits that were emerging that were quite nice. And I think I'm pretty sure I probably painted over them.
Yeah.
So I think it's being willing to do that, actually. It's probably where the risk comes in. I think it's important to hold on to that.
It's made me realise you don't ever have to kind of chuck a painting away, just paint over it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or slap some calico on it and start again.
Yeah. I've got one down here that I need to get the sander on because it's been varnished and waxed, so it's got a surface finish, so I need to get rid of that to be able to paint on it. But it's a 24 by 24 wooden panel, so I'm not, I did it quite a while ago, and I just think, actually, I don't really like that anymore, so why not I just sand it back? So
can Natalie tell me what she put on hers again when you described your layering process? What was gesso, or no, matte medium?
So it was just like black or paint gray newsprint, like starting with covering it with newsprint, and then gloss medium, and then a layer of paint.
Sounds interesting.
And then another, and then I just went a little further, because the idea is to start with distressing the panels. You could just probably just sand that away, that layer, and you just start, you would have the black coming through, whatever color you chose. But then I went like another layer further and added collage and did the same like process, like gloss medium and then paint, and then I sanded into them. So you're kind of starting the surface with distress, I guess. But I'm just experimenting with that now. It's not something I normally would ever do, but I've been in an experimental phase, so.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I'm just going to whiz through the chat before we finish.
Okay.
So lots to think about. Love the conversation, meaty ideas and insights. Brilliant. That's great. Enjoyed it. Sally Ann, what's the structure for your paintings? Oh, that's what I'm thinking about. So mine, I'm as well just sort of coming around to this idea of how I'm going to build structure in mine, but I often do want them to have a feeling, and I'm just looking on my wall at the moment because the last ones I've been looking at, I mean, this is me narrowing it down, and really this is still so broad. It was meditative, repetition, rhythm, limited palette, collage, line, and formed shapes. Now, I still think that is way too wide, but I will work on that and narrow it down. But overall, I guess I'm looking for just this feeling. I've kind of called it like a quiet chaos or quietly chaotic. I like lots going on, but I'm drawn to a very sort of muted palette. You know, line work's important in my work, and so for me, I need to really sort of zoom in and, you know, what is important to me, and just kind of see how I can go with that. But I love this idea of the structure and the framework. Debbie said, can you show a painting where you used wax, pastel and pencil?
I can. There we go. Actually, that one's probably better. I'll put it on the other camera actually. You can see it more clearly because it's only a tiny little one if I do it on there. And then we probably need to finish then, don't we, actually?
Yeah.
There we go. So, yeah, so.
Oh, nice. Okay.
There, yeah. So that's pencil there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's wax pastel.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there's, I don't know if you can see the kind of, it's like a moving like that. If you can see it, that there's actually a relief on it because that's paper. There's the piece of paper there.
Ah, yes, we can.
Yeah, and there's a piece of paper there.
Okay, yeah, I can just see the edge on the sort of
top. Quite tricky to see actually on the camera with a light like that. So, yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, Lynn. I've really enjoyed it.
No problem. It's been great. And thanks to everybody for joining us. Yeah. Can you remember what the date of the next one is without looking? Do you know? I can't remember. I know it's, where are we? April, aren't we? So it'll be early in May.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you who've come, the same link applies, although we'll be sending out reminders and everything. And this has been recorded, so we'll upload this to YouTube probably in the next day or so, I would have thought, both of us onto our YouTube channel, so you can rewatch it if you want to. So yeah, thank you very much everybody for joining. It's been great.
Really
cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and then have a good weekend.
See you next month.
Bye everybody. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye. I'll just wait till everybody's gone, actually, I think. Still somebody with us? That's it. Okay. That's it. It's just the two of us now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Well done. That
was all right, wasn't it? I think it went okay.
It went so quickly.